There's a man in Israel whose son has gotten ill. He's almost to the point of death. So he goes frantically to Jesus, seeking a healing, seeking God to come and do something in his life, which maybe doesn't seem all that exciting, except that this is not the kind of man who asks anybody for help. He's important, he's an official. He never has had to ask anybody to do anything for him. But now he's at a crossroads. Either his son gets well through Jesus, or he doesn't. He comes to Jesus and Jesus heals him. And maybe as you read through that this week in John's Gospel, you think to yourself, well, why do I really care about that? Until you realize that somebody you care about is sick. Something in your life has gone the way that you didn't want it to go. And then all of a sudden you realize, hey, I need Jesus. There's another man who has spent decades paralyzed, unable to move, unable to do anything, and nobody cares. Nobody's even willing to just lift him into a pool that many claim will heal you and make you well. Jesus comes to that man on a Sabbath day, and he heals him. He makes him well. He didn't need to be lifted into a pool. He just needed God to come down and do something about it. And again, maybe you wonder to yourself, okay, well, what does that really matter for me? Well, it matters when you start to realize that, yeah, there's some things in your life that you're powerless to do anything about. And there's some things in your life that maybe you've been dealing with for a very long time. Maybe the days, the weeks, the decades continue to go by. And you need somebody to come and be gracious. When you read the Gospel of John in chapter 5, you start to understand that Jesus is this gracious God. And there is somebody who is willing to come along and provide a lift, a rest, grace, restore and heal your life. That's John chapter 5. You might think that these are easy stories to kind of rejoice over and be happy about, but we find out that there's people who don't like it, that man was healed on the Sabbath. They don't believe that's the real definition of rest, but it is. See, when you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, when you begin to see the gospel, it's all about rest. It's all about Jesus coming and lifting burdens and forgiving sins and even giving us rest from the ailments and death that plagues our world. We gather and worship this weekend. We spend time in God's Word throughout the week, and that too is rest because God is coming to speak to us and lift us up and restore us and sustain us in ways that we cannot do ourselves and we shouldn't even be trying to do ourselves. Could you use some rest? Take a look at John chapter 5 this week and see the rest that Jesus can give you. Join us to worship as we do rest in the grace and truth of our God, the real good news that Jesus is here to do things we can't do, to hear us when we call out in those moments of need, to restore us and lift up our lives forever. Hope and pray that God blesses your time in His Word. Join us Saturday night or Sunday morning. Have a great weekend.